Hey, this movie's pretty good. I can't wait to see what they end up doing, and it's about colonialism. Sure, why not? I've been going through the Office Superfan episodes recently, so naturally I'm putting everything in Office terms, as you do. And watching Mickey 17, I really connected with Toby in this conference room scene.
The fundamentals of business. Mental is a part of the word. I have underlined it. Because you're mental if you don't have a good time.
Well, the fun is in it.
Fundamental.
Oh, right.
Get out.
I know.
Sometimes you're watching a film, and as the story runs its course, you repeatedly have moments where you just say, wait, you had such a good thing going there. Why did you take it in the direction you took it? Such is the case with Mickey 17, more so than I have seen in a movie in quite some time. This isn't Joker 2 or Gladiator 2, where I would have just made a completely different movie. Well, I wouldn't have made those movies, but regardless, Mickey 17 introduces the concepts, it introduces the characters, and then it just does everything wrong. It picks the least interesting, the least creative path forward in its story. Not to mention blatant contradictions within itself that don't need to exist, and the type of pandering messaging that I'm pretty sure Americans have made quite clear they don't want. Little plot summary coming at you, and following my rule of avoiding spoilers for movies that are worth seeing, I'll be spoiling this movie. Before I get into it, make sure you like and subscribe for more videos treating the creations of modern Hollywood with all the respect they deserve. Mickey is an expendable, a man who has signed his life away to basically become a reusable lab rat. On Earth, Mickey joined his friend in a macaron restaurant startup that utterly failed, and the predatory loan shark that gave them their startup money tracks them down. The sadistic mafia boss relishes in watching people suffer excruciatingly painful deaths, usually by chainsaw. So Mickey and his friend get out of Dodge. In fact, they decide to flee Earth altogether. They sign up for a highly sought-after mission to a faraway planet called Niflheim. Lots of people want to go, so Mickey applies for the position least in demand without reading the fine print. Hey, he might have to do an undesirable job, but at least he won't die, right? The expedition is led by Kenneth Marshall, played by Mark Ruffalo, a disgraced congressman who lost his last 2 elections and wants to colonize a planet with a pure race of humans. And in case you idiots think it's too subtle who the writer is basing this antagonist off of, all of his supporters wear red baseball hats. Yay! So Mickey ends up being an expendable. He's used for scientific research that is almost sure to get him killed, and then he just gets reprinted from an industrial sci-fi MRI machine looking thing and does it all over again. The writers are really pretty unimaginative with how he gets used. Just about every time he dies, it's as a lab rat. Why not give him a repair task on the ship or something that is almost sure to end in his death and just reprint him over and over again until he manages to succeed? But fine, he's a glorified lab rat. Mickey has to constantly download his memories to this brick hard drive so that he can be restored to his most recent version. He also, and I want to make sure you hear this, he also has to download his personality every week. You got that? He downloads his personality every week. Okay, also Mickey has a girlfriend, Nasha, who is pretty horny. Not much else to say about her beyond that. Mickey, who is on his 17th version of himself, is on Niflheim when he falls through the ice and, unfortunately, doesn't die. Timo, his so-called friend with the macarons, just leaves him to die. But when creepers show up, which are these giant slug armadillo alien creatures, rather than eating him, they actually pull him out of the crevice he fell into and back up to the surface. Mickey 17 makes the long journey back across the freezing planet to base, hitching a ride on the back of a slow-moving transport and somehow doesn't get hypothermia. Sure. When he gets back to his quarters, however, there's another Mickey in his bed. Oh no! The science team assumed Mickey 17 was dead, so they went ahead and reprinted him for version 18. So now they've got 2 Mickeys. Maybe they can have them tag team a little suicide project. Whatever the case, they'll just sort this out, so no big deal, right? Wrong! You see, there's a law, and I'll explain it more after I'm done with the plot, that says if there are ever 2 of the same person at the same time, then any and every version of the replicant should be terminated and the data to clone them deleted. So Mickey is in trouble. This is very serious. For like 10 minutes while they both try to kill the other one. Then the film kind of moves on from that. And no, I'm not kidding. That's not actually the focus of the film. Nasha finds out, and her immediate concern is not that her boyfriend is going to be permanently killed, but rather, ooh, I can have a threesome with 2 versions of the same guy. Granted, she was high on a super illegal drug at the time. And this is a character the movie wants you to like. Now, Mickey 17 wants nothing to do with this menage a twin, but Mickey 18 is all for it, because Mickey 18 is nothing like Mickey 17.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Remember when the film and I made it really clear that Mickey uploads his personality on a weekly basis? Well, the film didn't remember that. In fact, it goes out of its way to then tell us that every time Mickey gets reprinted, he comes out different. So, why did you make it a point to say he re-uploads his personality? This is one of the most blatant contradictions I've ever seen in a movie. Usually these occur when we see something that contradicts something else we saw earlier in the film. But this time, we're told one thing, and then told the exact opposite thing about 45 minutes apart, both times via exposition. The rest of the movie is whatever. Mark Ruffalo is an evil Trump cutout who wants to kill all the creepers on the planet so his master race can populate it, even though the humans are the aliens on the planet. Like I said at the very beginning, it divulges into colonialism bad. Oh, and there's a small payoff when the mafia boss sends someone across the entire galaxy to exact revenge on the Macaron Man, but it doesn't work. What on earth, or what on Niflheim was that? How did you fail to deliver so egregiously on such a solid premise? And I know this is based on a book by Ashton Edward, but Bong Joon-ho decided it had to be adapted, so I'm criticizing him. Okay, let's start with the good. I don't know if you've heard of this Robert Pattinson guy, but man, can he act. Okay, on to the bad. Yeah, that's all there was really good about the film was Pattinson. I guess a few funny moments too. Where to start with the bad? Let's address some quick criticisms. Mark Ruffalo is Mark Ruffalo. He delivers the slightly below mediocre performance, that's all he's capable of. Nasha is obnoxious. There really isn't much to like about her, and yet the film seems to think there is. One of the big payoffs towards the end of the film is Mickey signing the letter C and the number 3 to her from a football field away, and her understanding that he's referencing a sex positions guide they doodled together at least 2 years previously. Yeah, that's super satisfying. And that brings me to the tone of the movie. It's awful. The movie has stuff like that and slapstick grotesque humor that makes me think this whole thing is meant to be a comedy. But then it also clearly takes itself super seriously when it's preaching about colonialism. It's like it's afraid to be taken seriously unless it's pandering to woke ideals. Also, let's make a motion to put a cap on expositional voiceover. I don't know what that cap should be, but this movie definitely went over it. Now, let's address another super obvious plot hole that the film relies upon for the story to even have a chance at existing. How do they not have a way to know whether Mickey is dead or not? It's not just Mickey 17 it happens to. One of his previous versions gets thrown into the incinerator when he's technically still alive. There is no way that these scientists who are so advanced they're cloning humans and downloading personalities don't have a way to monitor if their clone is dead yet or not. Especially when the legal ramifications for creating another before the original is dead are so severe. Which brings me to the biggest thing of this movie. So, cloning was invented on Earth, but they made it basically always illegal, except in this rare case of creating expendables, because of the actions of one man. See, one of the guys who actually perfected the cloning process was involved in a case where homeless people were getting brutally murdered. All the evidence pointed to him being the culprit. However, he had an airtight alibi. Multiple people could confirm that he was putting on a children's show at the time of the murders. Turns out he had cloned himself to be his own alibi while he indulged in massacring hobos. And when the cops finally figured it out and arrested both versions of him, he had another replicant who kept killing the hobos. And I can't be the only person watching the movie that said, wait, stop. Tell me that story. Show me the movie about that guy. But that led to the legislation in this movie that if multiple versions of the same person exist at the same time, all of them are terminated and their source code is permanently deleted. That's a stupid law, especially as it applies to expendables like Mickey. The scientists screwed up. Mickey didn't reprint his own duplicate, it's the fault of the scientists who didn't make sure the old version was dead. But it also struck an idea in my head about what this movie could have been about. Maybe I'm secretly evil? I don't know. Because as they were explaining this law, my first thought was, oh, so if I really hated someone, I could just clone them, and because now there's 2 of them, the government will erase them from existence. That would be more interesting of a movie. Like, what if Timo, the guy who took out the loan that got Mickey in so much trouble, was told by the loan shark that he needed to kill Mickey, so Timo, because he's a coward, double-cloned Mickey to get him killed. And Mickey 17 and 18 try to kill each other to hide the fact that they're duplicates, but they also slowly learn what's going on. That'd be interesting. And you'd have plenty of opportunities for humor, which the film clearly wants. And beyond that, how about just addressing some of the obvious ethical questions that arise in a story like this? Even beyond the ethics of cloning. Like, when do you reprint Mickey? Do you reprint him as soon as he dies, or do you wait until you need him for a suicide mission again? Which is crueler, to print him so he can die 24 hours later, or to print him and have him live knowing he's going to be called upon at any moment to die a painful death? And maybe there's a clause in his contract that says after 50 deaths or something, he gets to live like a normal person. Occasionally, throughout the movie, Mickey gets asked what it feels like to die. And each time I sat up in my seat paying close attention. This is what I'm talking about, movie. Address the real questions that a premise like this allows you to explore. Maybe you even talk to some of the rare people in the world who have been pronounced medically dead for a few minutes. Except every time Mickey's asked that question, he doesn't answer it. He just says he doesn't like dying. Oh, really? You don't like dying? Imagine that. Real creative film. I mean, the film acts like it's not a serious film, but it definitely takes itself seriously, especially when it starts preaching about the evils of colonialism. Mickey 17 is just a disappointment more than anything else. It has the opportunity to be interesting and fun. An at times slapstick Blade Runner variant that can slow down and dwell on some genuinely intriguing subjects. But instead, it's completely inept at balancing tone, subjects you to mass quantities of voiceover, and displays an underlying lack of intelligence and imagination on the part of the writers.
All right, the sauce.
What?
The sauce. I don't know. You're using too much sauce. Okay? Review's over.